So Total War Rome 2 is out, and here is my mini review. Now keep in mind, this is very much more first impressions than it is a review. Especially with a game like this, you really got to play like 20 hours or so at least to really get a good idea of everything. But I played a few hours, and this is my first impressions, as I said. I've got a long list of points here, so let's get started. First things first, I gotta get this off my chest. Romans did not have English accents. They did not, they do not, and they never will. I am sick of this bullshit stereotype. It's not really a stereotype, it's just stupidity. Why can't Romans sound Italian the way they're meant to? They gave the Carthaginians nice accents, but the Romans are English. What the shit is that? You know what I mean. And that's all I'm going to say. One of these days, a company's gonna have the balls to give Romans the accent they deserve. But that day has not come. Not today. Now I'm done. That's it. Got that off my chest. Let's get on with the review. Alright, let's get started with gameplay changes. Now, I have only played Total War Medieval 1 and 2, so if these things are in like Empire and Napoleon and Shogun 2, I'm not aware of it. So this is new to me. Capitals and towns. So the way I remember Total War is that you just had castles and cities or towns scattered all over the place, and you could turn castles into cities and vice versa. And if I recall correctly, you could make any city your capital, if I'm not very much mistaken. With Rome 2, what you've got is regions that have a capital and then settlements, towns around it. And when you click on your capital or any one of those, it shows at the bottom of the screen in the UI, it shows all of the cities, all the settlements in that region at the one time. And you can build your buildings and whatnot sort of within the same box for these settlements and cities. Now, I haven't, as of course, this is first impressions, so I haven't delved too far into the game yet, but it doesn't seem like you can make the settlements capital cities. The capital of a region stays the capital. I kind of like it. It's sure it does get rid of some freedom, but it feels nice having these full territories. It feels more realistic. What's the word I'm looking for? I want to use the word context, but I'm not sure how to use it in this situation. Funnily enough, I cannot figure out how to use the word context in this context, but we'll leave that alone for now. As another nice little addition that I've seen, the capitals, I believe at least the capitals, but I'm pretty sure all towns and whatnot actually grow visually. They change as they increase in size, which is nice. So there's a little bit of carryover. It's not just numbers and little pictures like you have this, this, and this in your city. It's kind of reflected at a glance when you build more buildings, which is rock and roll. I really like that. It's just minor changes, really. It doesn't affect gameplay, but it's nice. Okay, so now there's something called Imperium. Now, I'm not entirely sure if I understand this correctly, but from what I gather, Imperium is kind of a measurement of your development as a faction or a civilization. And it's directly connected to how many armies you can field at any one time. So I had a look in the encyclopedia. There is an in-game encyclopedia, which is very nice. It opens up in like sort of a browser type thing, and you can move the box around the screen, which is very rock and roll. I had a look in the encyclopedia, and from what I gather, your Imperium increases as your civilization or faction develops in the campaign, and it seemed very much an automatic thing. It's not like you could actively increase your Imperium, not like researching something or building something. So that's an interesting choice. It feels more realistic because this shitty little civilization that's just getting off its feet isn't going to have access to ridiculously huge armies. So that kind of makes sense, and I like that, because then you can't really get ahead of yourself, if that makes sense. You can't like destroy your economy by just building too many military units, or just become overwhelmed early game because you've just got too many military units swinging around. But that's just me. I like that. That's a pretty cool change. What else have we got here? I've made a list because there's a lot of things. Army recruitment is different from how I remember. I'm not sure how it is in the more modern Total War games, but in Medieval 2, I believe the way it worked was, yes, all units were built in the towns, in the castles, cities, towns, whatever, and then in the field you could hire mercenaries, and that was it, as simple as that. Now you actually, to recruit units, you have to go to the army, the commander that you want to add the units to, and then you add them from there. And it's sort of the units come from the region instead of the actual town or castle, which is interesting. It took a little getting used to. It feels kind of clunky, because maybe it's just because I'm used to the old system, but to me it's more logical that you want more units, you go to a town and you get more units, instead of sort of magically recruiting them straight from your armies. The other thing you'll notice changing from Medieval 2 is the way that you build buildings. Now this confused me very much at first, and still I do not think it is an intuitive system. I can see myself maybe getting used to it in time, and I think I can understand why they did it. Basically, when you try to explain it, it doesn't sound very different, but what happens is you've sort of got categories of buildings, and they you click on it and it's like this drop down menu type thing, and it's almost like an upgrade system. So it's not so much you want this building, go ahead and build it. It's very much a linear upgrade system of buildings within these categories. So yes, that might make sense in terms of building requirements, but on the other hand, personally I find it's a lot harder to see what buildings you will be able to build in the future. Now, I very well might get used to this system and find it to be superior to the old one, but at the moment I do find it very clunky and kind of hard to navigate and not transparent enough, despite the fact that when you hover over a building, it gives you very clear tooltips as to what the building does, which is a good point. That is a good point of this new system. Other than that, and from what I can see so far, there aren't really any major changes. The game is still very much that old Total War formula that you may love or hate, as the case may be. And I'm in kind of two minds about this. On the one hand, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But on the other hand, I can't help myself thinking, is it really worth buying every single Total War game that comes out? I don't think the differences are great enough to warrant that. And maybe I'm just being blasphemous here, but let me know what you think. Has the Total War series evolved enough to warrant investing in every single title that they release? Alright, let's move on to the pretty shiny things. Graphics! Alright, first things first, the UI looks great. I remember the user interface from Medieval 2, and I always found it really weird that the rest of the game looked amazing, but the UI looked like arse. It was just low resolution schlop, and I didn't understand why they'd sort of skimp on that area. You know, it's something that you're looking at for the majority of the game. In fact, I mean, it's always on screen, so why not put a little more effort into it to make it look pretty? But worry not. The Rome 2 user interface looks very schmick. In fact, it's probably the best looking part of the game. Unfortunately, let's start with the positive things. The animations are phenomenal. I really must say, when you get in close to the soldiers and you can see them, not so much when they're fighting, when it's just like swarms of soldiers hacking each other, but the more specialized things like boarding, when the soldiers are jumping over the side of the ship to get, jumping onto the other ship that they're boarding, that is very smooth and realistic. Now the negative, other than the animations, the graphics are kind of lame. I'm actually really disappointed. You zoom right in and it's just like schlop. I actually think Medieval 2 looked better, especially texture-wise. Rome 2 might have bloom and and nice lighting and whatnot, but the textures really are not good. And same with the shadows. The shadows are kind of flickery and blurry and just ugly. Based on what I'd seen in like trailers and demos and whatnot, I really was expecting the graphics to be a lot better. Now, this is going to segue into performance, because I'm going to say maybe the graphics have disappointed me because I've got a 4-year-old computer, and thus like I'm not using the highest shader that the game has available. So maybe that has something to do with it. And also, I've found the whole graphics menu to be actually quite glitchy. So I load up into the game and it sets the graphics to ultra by default, and that surprised me because I meet the minimum requirements but not the recommended requirements. My graphics card falls a little short, a lot short actually. So yeah, it defaults me to ultra, and I figured, well, if it thinks that I can handle ultra, I'll just put it down to high. Now it's got like, it's like ultra, very high, high, medium, low, and then there's like extreme at the other, on top of ultra. And I think either those labels are bad, like high is more like medium, and very high is like a little higher medium or something. Or maybe the graphics options are freaking out or something, because I do not see any change at all when I change the graphics settings. And in fact, the graphics settings seem to be reverting back to ultra on their own whenever I check them, but I see absolutely no difference. Now, here's something funky. Not only do I see no difference visually, I see a very, very minimal difference in frame rate. The difference in frame rate between the low graphics settings and extreme is at absolute most 5 frames per second. That's unbelievable. Considering that I have a 4-year-old computer, and by all rights I shouldn't have any business running this game on high, I'm actually able to crank the graphics up to extreme and it is still reasonably playable. What? So that tells me this thing is not well optimized. In fact, I lowered the resolution to 1366 by, what is it, 768, is that right? Whatever it is, you know what I'm talking about. I lowered the resolution to that, and the FPS was worse. It was worse than 1080. What? Something's not right here. So, I'm actually playing the game. This is so weird. I get the best FPS from having the game on 1080 resolution at the ultra graphics setting, I get about 20-25 FPS, but I cannot get more than that. It's very strange. So I think maybe I think there's also an issue, like I said, with the graphics settings. I think there's a bug there, and maybe that's contributing to the fact that it doesn't look as good as I expected, but I just don't know. I guess we'll see in the future. If it changes, I'll make, at the very least, I'll put an annotation on this video around this area just to let you know if it's changed and how it has changed. So all that being said, regardless of the FPS I get, the game still controls very smoothly. It's still extremely responsive, especially considering how low my FPS is. It does not stutter at all, which is great. You know, that's a huge plus. So I haven't tried any really huge battles yet. That might bring my computer to its knees. But the smallish battles that I've played so far were very smooth. So cool beans on that. Now, when you go to save your game, you get the option of saving on a cloud or locally. Now, usually I'm not big on cloud saves, but because they tend to always screw up for me. I go, ooh, not syncing, blah blah, lose all your saves. Oh my god. But what's really cool is that you get the option. I'm very much a fan of of options when it comes to video games, so that's a big plus. There's quite a lot of content here to play with. You got your standard campaign where you select your faction, your civilization, and you duke it out with the rest of the Mediterranean. You've got your historical battles, custom battles, quick battle option, which seems to be a matchmaking type lobby for quick online games against other folks. There's a multiplayer campaign as well, and look, there's probably even more, and I've just forgotten. There really is a lot of stuff to do here, but it does mostly fit in with that same Total War formula. In summary, it's a reasonable looking game, considering that the animations are really good, and the campaign map does look pretty nice as long as you don't zoom in too far. It's, same old Total War. It will feel fresh enough, I think, but ultimately, for me, the biggest highlight of Total War Rome 2 is the setting. And really, that's just a subjective thing. I really love that time period and Roman culture and all that. So I can't help but dig it. Regardless of whether or not it's a worthy sequel or worthy next step in the Total War series. It does have some nice parts, but they're not really. They're more like little fun, not really gimmicks, but they're not of great consequence. They're not game changers. Pardon the pun. So if you're a die-hard Total War fan, you'll probably want to get this game. If you enjoy ancient Roman culture or have any interest in the time period, that's a good excuse too. It's currently available in Australia on Steam for $80 or in store for $88. Check it out, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.